And most people are in the fight or flight response all the time.
Mhm.
And when you're in that response, you have effectively halved all your body's major systems:
Yeah.
endocrine system, digestive system, reproductive system, and immune system. Because your body's taking all that energy from those systems to give it to your muscles so that you can run or fight, because it assumes there's a lion in front of you
Mhm.
that's charging. That's
Mhm.
what it assumes. And you don't need all those systems working at full capacity while you're trying to survive this encounter with this potentially deadly animal. But when people are in a chronic state of that, you can understand how they would then be opening themselves up to all kinds of disease processes.
The content presented in this podcast and YouTube show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or seen on this show. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of this show are not responsible for any adverse effects resulting from your use of or reliance on any information presented.
Andrea, Andrea, can you hear us?
Many years ago, I died for 26 seconds. There are so many people in this world that have experienced life events that have led to their soul purpose. Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea will bring you these significant life events that demonstrate how to use those moments for guidance and life purpose. These are our stories.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Wake Up Your Soul. Today's guest is Peter McLaughlin, and we're going to talk about his journey of awakening. He was diagnosed with leukemia back in 2003, but he's also a former firefighter and EMT. So he's going to talk to us about his journey. And I feel like this is very valuable and important for everyone to hear because, as I was discussing with Peter before, some of us come to this awakening in life when we go through these life or death moments, but then some of us also gain the new perspective just through hearing somebody else's story. So let's hear Peter's story and let it awaken your soul. Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. You like that intro?
Yeah, I love that intro.
Yeah, yeah,
Short and
I
sweet. That's my favorite, actually.
Yeah, actually, that was probably one of my longer ones. I'm usually a lot quicker, but I think it's helpful to give people an idea of where we're going and why we're going in this
Yeah.
direction. Why are we sharing this story? And so, obviously, as I mentioned before, we're sharing this story just so that people maybe don't have to go through some of the most difficult things that you've gone through. That's where we get a lot of value from people's stories, where they can share the perspective that they gained from their hardships. I mean, that's the ideal situation, right? But of course we do, and we are meant to go through some of these hardships in our lives.
Yep. And then there's also it may be inspiring for somebody out there.
Yeah.
I know that when I have been struggling at different times in my life, other people have inspired me, either people that I knew or people even that I read about.
Yeah. So, Peter, you were just talking about how it can help inspire people, your journey or other people's journeys. So, what was going on in life before the leukemia? I'm assuming this is when you were an EMT, you were a firefighter.
I was volunteering to be a firefighter EMT in
Okay.
my town in Connecticut when this was all discovered.
Okay.
And there's a little irony there too, which is I was wanting to do that work to rescue other people, and I was kind of rescued
Uh-huh.
by having this get turned up earlier than it otherwise would have been turned up. Who
Mm,
knows what the situation would have been like if it had gone undetected for another period of time, 6 months, a year, whatever.
mhm.
I think it was a blessing that I was able to be aware of this at the time that I was aware of it. So what was going on is my wife and I had 3 small children. We were living in a 100-year-old house that I was spending time on the weekends fixing up. I worked on Wall Street 4 days a week. 9/11 happened. The planes flew within probably a half a mile of our house as they navigated along the Hudson River down to the Trade Center. My office was a block and a half away from the Trade Center, and I was spending another day a week building a security guard company. So I was really burning the candle at both ends. And then there was this national trauma right in the middle of it that happened to occur a block and a half from where I worked.
Mhm.
And we were raising 3 little kids. And I think I had never been in a stage of my life where it was that hard. Like
Yeah.
everything was that hard. And I'm sure that that had something to do with this. I'm sure as well that the exposure to the air at ground zero had something to do with this as well.
Yeah.
That the federal government told us that it was okay to go back to work. The attacks were on Tuesday. We were back at work on Monday.
Oh my
And
god.
there was a cloud, literally a dark, heavy, ominous cloud
Yeah.
over what used to be the World Trade Center for months. And we were breathing all of that stuff, and you just imagine everything that would be pulverized, in this case, in a modern office building, asbestos and
Yeah.
all kinds of heavy metal, everything, plastics. I was breathing all of that in at the same time that I had all of this crazy stress going on in my life.
Yeah,
So I'm
and
quite
stress
sure that that was implicated in everything.
yeah, and stress obviously weakens the cells in our bodies and
Yep.
makes everything so much harder to fight off because, people talk about being in the same situation as you or the same situation as someone else, and it's like, "Well, that didn't happen to me," and it's like, "Well, we all have different genetics. We also
Mhm.
all have different things going on in our lives that are stressing us out in different ways, right? And we all have different diets, and the food that we eat changes the cells within our bodies, and the emotions that we hold changes the cells within our bodies. So every person is just so different and so unique. And so it's a wild journey because I'm on my own health journey and I have been for a very long time and it ebbs and flows, but I also see why certain pieces happen. But yeah, some people always want to say that like, well, this doesn't happen to me. And it's like, well, you're different, like in so
Yeah,
many ways, right? We
that's
are
right. I mean,
all,
it's like saying, I drove 2 cars that were manufactured the same year, the same way, and I did the maintenance and everything, but one of them had a brake problem and the other one didn't, or one of them had an electronic problem, the other one didn't. There's so many variables, even
yeah,
on the same assembly line, with
yeah,
all of these components that come together, and
yeah.
then maybe the climate in which you're driving it, and then the habits of the drivers. Some
Hmm.
people might do a jackrabbit start at a stoplight or, hit the brakes just as they come up on the light, and the other one is slowing down slowly. There's so many factors and more even for us as human beings.
For sure. So many factors. And that's one thing I hate about the wellness space is when people box people into a one size fits all because it's not and it's not even close. Like not even
No,
close.
and then we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest component as far as I'm concerned. Like
Mhm.
in my situation, I would say I needed to get hit with a spiritual 2 by 4 to get my attention because
Yep.
the previous, knocks at the proverbial knocks at the door, I wasn't answering.
Yeah.
And the day that I was diagnosed, it wasn't just leukemia, it was also Lyme disease. 2 things on the same day.
I have Lyme disease. Welcome. Welcome to the club.
Well, and for me, in concert with leukemia, the Lyme disease was like, "Oh, that."
Yeah. Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And we were living in Connecticut, which is as
Oh, yes. Lyme Central.
yeah, exactly. Everybody was getting Lyme disease around there
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time. All 3 of my kids got it, my wife got it.
But
So
then
they just all happened at the same time.
yeah. Did they get ticks on them or did you just go get
Oh, yeah,
everybody tested? Okay.
totally. We always got ticks on I mean,
Yeah.
that was just a thing. And
Well, but
then
it's not just ticks that carry Lyme, and so I feel like everybody probably has Lyme, it's just whether or not your body can handle it inside of your body is really what I think, but
yeah.
that's a whole nother episode, which I've done. I've done a Lyme episode a little bit, but
Mhm,
so let's go back to getting diagnosed with the leukemia. So
mhm,
obviously you're saying there was just a lot of components that were making your body unwell.
mhm.
So let's talk about like what did you start to notice was off? Like, before you knew you had leukemia, I was like, maybe I better go to the doctor. Like, something's not quite right. Did you get Lyme
That
first?
no, that's just it, that this was asymptomatic.
Mm.
So, the only reason I went to the doctor is because I was volunteering to be a firefighter,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and they made us take an extensive physical, and actually, at the end of the physical, the doctor said to me, "Wow, you're in really good shape for your age," and at the time, I was 41.
Yeah.
And they said, "Come back and give blood." So I came back, I gave blood, and that's when the alarm bells went off, was
Okay.
after I gave the blood, and I went immediately into denial. I'm like, "That's crap. There's no way I
Run it
have
again.
leukemia." Yeah. So I did, and they came up with the exact same results.
Oh,
And then I went to say then I asked them, "How long do I have to live?" And they said, "Maybe 10 years." That was 23 years ago.
okay.
And when I went to see the hematologist oncologist, they said, "We don't know what causes it and we don't know how to cure it." And that's when I knew that I would have to find my own path.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to me. I had Lyme and all these other things, but I don't think I was diagnosed with Lyme until the doctor told me it looked like ALS because they couldn't figure it out. They
Mm,
were running all these tests and they could see what I would explain to them. I'm like, my neck isn't holding up, like my muscles are just fatiguing. And
mm,
so they said, I remember the doctor telling me, give me 3 weeks. I'm going to go through all the things. So she had sent me off for all this testing and all these things. And so then once she went through all the tests and the lab work and everything, she was like, "Well, have you heard of ALS?" And that's when I was like, "Okay, so what? So, like, there's nothing you can do for me if that's what you think it is. So I got to figure this out for myself." And that's when I remember watching this video of this guy. I hate to say this, but I think he's dead now. But he was a doctor and he had been diagnosed with ALS as well. But he was, I think, in a wheelchair and struggling to swallow and all the things. And he started doing his Lyme treatment and then he was walking and talking and, but he was older anyway. So I don't know that he died because it was a wrong diagnosis per se. But also, that's a whole nother can of worms, my opinion on the ALS situation, because I think it's kind of like the Lyme and probably like your leukemia and a lot of these other things. I don't necessarily think I believe it has to be a death sentence. I think but I
no.
think there can be a point where maybe the reversal of it is going to be insanely hard because you're a little too far along with it.
Mhm, mhm,
But I do think there is repair you can do on the parts of your body that are shutting down. I mean, I've seen it with my own self, and I see myself where it starts to slip again. And then it's like, okay, I know what I need to do for myself. But so anyway, similar story in that I just figured out like I got to find my own way because the doctors aren't
mhm.
going to find a way for me.
Yep.
And so, what was the way that you found?
I would say it was multifaceted. So, I found my way to a naturopathic doctor, and I learned that they believe that disease comes from some kind of environmental toxin
Mhm.
that you would have and or a lack of proper nutrients.
Yeah.
And they believe that when you balance that out, you get rid of the poison and you build the body up that you'll become healthy again.
Hmm.
And I co-opted that philosophy, but expanded it to emotional toxins. So I believe that we have to look not just at environmental toxins, but we have to look at emotional toxins too.
For sure.
And it was only after I got my training as a hypnotherapist, where we did a lot of work kind of as a client, that I recognized how much stuff I'd been carrying around with me. And the mind and the body are clearly connected.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. Ask any doctor, they'll agree to that. Try to find somebody that practices that way, however, would be quite difficult.
Yeah.
And so I came to believe for myself and for everybody actually that healing the mind and healing the body is really what we should all be doing.
Yeah, I'm really happy you're touching on this because so I went and did brain rewire certification. And I mean, it's obviously probably similar to the types of things that you do with people and discuss, their thought patterns and changing them. But getting into that world, I have found there are a lot of people that all they want to talk about is if you are unwell, it's just your mental state. It's just your mental state. It's your thought process. If you change your thoughts, you'll change your life. If you change your thoughts, everything will just heal naturally. And I don't believe that 100%. I really do believe
Mhm,
environmental is a piece of it too. So for me, when I was super sick at the time, there was a lot of things going on. One, I lived in a home that would get spiders often, and I was super afraid of spiders. So
mm,
I would set off foggers like every few months, I would fog
Mm.
bomb the house with foggers to kill these
Oh,
things, and actually, it was my therapist at the time, he was like, "Wait a minute," because I was going to Stanford, and he was like, he's like, "Hmm," 'cause, he's like, "Those could be like a paralytic, maybe this is part of your problem," which
yeah,
I think it was part of it, but
yeah.
I was working in a classroom. The classroom was mold infested, and I
Mhm,
had insanely high levels of mold in my urine when I did a urine test.
mhm.
Uh, and there were certain and I lived on a house that was on a golf course property. We know golf courses are also
Oh,
highly
yeah.
toxic, right? So it's like there and I'm not gonna say my mental state was great. I was also seeing a therapist at the time for severe depression because I was in a really bad relationship, But
Mm,
I really do think there are both parts to play in it. And so I get really kind of frustrated when people wanna strictly focus in on, well, if you're not well, it's your mental well-being, and that's just what it is.
mhm.
I think we can have things set on pretty straight, but if you don't have the right environment, things are gonna be messed up regardless of how happy and positive you are.
Yeah.
So
I believed at the time, and I still do, that it's crazy not to, quote, "fire on all cylinders,"
mhm.
to not look at every aspect of your life as a human being and clean up all those areas,
Yeah.
which would include your environment, which is what you're talking about, which affected me for sure. Clean up your diet, clean up even the personal care products, because anything that you put on your skin or your nails or your hair, you might as well be eating it.
Right.
And if you're not willing to eat it, you probably shouldn't be putting it on your body like that
Yeah.
because it's not healthy.
Yeah.
And then also look at your own life. Like, what are you dragging around with you? You have 60,000 thoughts per day,
Mhm.
and you're aware of 5% of those.
Mhm.
What's going on with the software programming?
Yeah.
And how is that affecting you? Because every time you move into a stress response, and just to be clear, your autonomic nervous system only has 2 modes. It's got fight or flight, and it's got rest and digest. That's it. There's no other option.
Mhm.
And most people are in the fight or flight response all the time.
Mhm.
And when you're in that response, you have effectively halved all your body's major systems:
Yeah.
endocrine system, digestive system, reproductive system, and immune system. Because your body's taking all that energy from those systems to give it to your muscles so that you can run or fight, because it assumes there's a lion in front of you
Mhm.
that's charging. That's what it assumes. And you don't need all those systems working at full capacity while you're trying to survive this encounter with this potentially deadly animal. But when people are in a chronic state of that, you can understand how they would then be opening themselves up to all kinds of disease processes.
Mhm. And it's hard because it can kind of be this domino effect when you're like me. I had full autonomic dysfunction as well, and I still have a pacemaker. I still have the same cardiac problems, which are interesting because when I got onto my Lyme treatment, I don't recall it doing much until I got a port placed, and then I got the medication going straight to the heart, and I actually went from, like, it was, like, over 20%. I feel like I was using it 22% of the day. And then I dropped down to 1% after using the medication. So I was like, okay. So they were like, oh, like, and this was back in the day when Lyme was not super acknowledged and I was at Stanford and the doctor
Yeah.
was like, okay, like maybe we have to acknowledge this because they had the real data there. You couldn't deny it.
Mhm.
Um, but then I stopped, the port got clogged and I had to remove it, and that was the whole thing. So now my usage is back up. So I know my Lyme is, it's still there. It's one of those things I don't really think we can ever fully get out of our bodies. I mean, it's a vicious thing, but I think, like I was saying, it becomes this domino effect though when you're not well and you're fighting these illnesses, whether it's a virus or a bacteria. And point is, if you're not feeling well, you are in that fight or flight because it's like, okay, how do I feel better? How do I get better? And so it can be this domino effect. And so it is really hard. There has to come a point where you kind of just accept that state that you're feeling, how you're feeling, and just work on the mindset of it. Like, I'm going to get through this. I know I don't feel well. Like, that's okay. Like, tomorrow's going to be a little bit better. I'm working towards it. It's going to get there, and just have that optimism a little bit. And I know it's hard. I've been there.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Me too. And it also is possible for us to learn how to shift our autonomic nervous system quickly.
Hmm.
And if one of the things that's causing us constantly to go into a fight or flight response is being what we call now triggered, what does that mean? It just means that something in your environment has triggered something that happened in the past
Mhm.
that your subconscious mind considered to be dangerous. Well, what happens if you put that thing in the past in your subconscious mind to rest? What it
Mhm.
means is when you get triggered, the gun won't fire and you won't move into a fight or flight response.
Yeah.
And what if you learn how to meditate or how to do self hypnosis or how to go into deep prayer or how to go onto YouTube and press play on an audio that someone has created
Mm.
that will bring you to that place because now you understand the importance for your overall well being?
Yeah. Yeah, I was in a emotionally abusive relationship at that time, and it was obviously very triggering, but that was not helping by any means. So I know what you're talking
Mm,
about. It's I always talk about that too, how important it is to look at the people that are in your circle because whatever energy they are carrying, you are carrying as well. And I know sometimes people get scared of leaving a relationship, but the reality is, if that person isn't loving on you like they should, it's not making you feel good. Whether you can acknowledge it or not, deep down inside, your body knows like this isn't life. Like this isn't the emotion I'm supposed to get from somebody else. And you need to let it go and move on. I know it's easier said than done sometimes, but it's really important that you surround yourself with the energy that you want to have for yourself.
yeah, for sure. Especially anything that's abusive, whether it's physical or emotional or both.
Yeah.
That really should be unacceptable for anyone
Yeah.
to be putting up with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I would say for sure that once you're safely removed, in this case from an abusive relationship, that you're able to understand if your subconscious mind is actually still holding on to that as a clear and present danger or not. That's where we get into trouble. That's probably 99% of my work is helping people clear traumas that happened in the past.
Hmm.
Why? Because the subconscious has no concept of time. Everything to the subconscious is now.
Hmm.
And that's why triggering is a thing.
Hmm.
You know, why should the soldier who suffered an IED blast in Afghanistan 15, 20 years ago still react in the present moment as if it's a clear and present danger? The answer is the subconscious has no concept of time,
Hmm.
and its job is to protect you. And consciously, you may think, oh, that was in the past. I'm over that. It's done. But that may not be your subconscious's opinion about it. And that may still be behaving almost like an anchor dragging across the seabed while you're trying to sail your ship from one port to another. So,
Think people listening are gonna think, "Well, how do I know if that's me?"
yeah, great question. So, the first thing is your body is a feedback mechanism. If
Yes.
I asked you how you're doing today and you were honest with me and you said, well, I'm having a really good day, I'm having a really bad day, how would you know that? It's because you'd feel it, right? Your body would be telling you. And it's the same thing when you meet a new person, like meeting you or meeting me. You know if you like that person, you don't like that person. You're suspicious of them or you trust them because of how your body feels. Your body is a feedback mechanism.
I like Peter, guys. I like Peter.
So the first thing would be to listen to how you feel. Are you being triggered by things? And maybe you say, I don't know why, but every time I smell, I'm just make this up,
Yeah.
lavender, I feel like I'm going to be attacked. Every
Mm.
time I hear this song that plays on the radio, I get this feeling.
Mm.
This is a neurolinguistic programming anchor. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
These things would be a clue that there's a trauma living in your past that your
Mhm.
subconscious mind is still treating as a clear and present danger.
Yeah, I always say I love to be triggered because that means there's something I can work on and clear out, and I it's hard to clear out everything until it comes up, right? I mean, until you get that trigger, it's kind of hard sometimes. Well, the hypnosis is probably very helpful.
It is, and the other thing I would say on this, your body's a feedback mechanism, is if you've ever heard of kinesiology or muscle testing, that's
Yeah.
basically asking the body to give you a yes or a no answer to any question you wanna pose to it,
Mm. Yeah.
and with muscle testing, it's weak strong. You can access the same wisdom, call it the wisdom of the body, by using a pendulum. What a pendulum does is it amplifies what the body's already telling you.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
not hocus pocus, it's an amplification of your body's communication capabilities. And
I
so
love I love muscle testing. I actually my kids have never had an antibiotic. I muscle test them for homeopathy, and For me, I can't fully, and maybe this is a whole thing for myself to work on, but I don't trust myself maybe enough. I like to do it super blindly. So whenever I think that they may need, I'll pick like 4 vials and then I close my eyes, I mix them up so I don't know what I'm muscle testing with. And then I'll ask them, okay, grab one of them and then I check it. And then, but I have my eyes closed so that I can not, because sometimes I think in my head, "Oh, for sure you need this one," like, just mentally, just with knowledge, I think, like, that's gonna be the right fit, and I wanna tune that out, so that's how, but yes, I love muscle testing.
And what would surprise you, because it surprises me too, is whether you used muscle testing or you used a pendulum, there will be times when you're convinced that the answer is gonna be, say, go left, and you keep getting go right. It's like, "What?" And it might even scare you. And then you say, follow that, you go right, and then in hindsight, you realize, "Oh my god, that was actually correct." Even though
See,
it
for
scared
me,
me.
sometimes I'm like, "Fuck it, I'm so confused, I don't know, never mind."
Yeah, it's tapping into that part of us that everyone has referenced throughout their lives when they've had an important decision to make, and people tell them, "What does your heart tell you?" "Body." "What does your gut tell you?" "Body." "What does your intuition tell you?" Don't know what that is, but everybody acknowledges we have an intuition.
Yeah,
Or sleep on it. What does that mean? Allow your conscious mind to become unconscious so that maybe you wake up in the morning with the perfect answer.
mhm,
So we all know that this wisdom exists. And these, whether it's muscle testing or pendulum, are just systematic ways of accessing that wisdom. And I would say one of the biggest obstacles that people run into is what you're describing, is a lack of faith,
mhm,
faith in themselves.
mhm,
Surely the people in the white butcher coats know more than I do. Surely the scientists know more than I do.
yeah,
Surely the judges and the politicians. And what are we seeing in our culture right now? No.
yeah,
You have an inherent God-given wisdom,
mhm,
and your body, everything about you is designed to be able to access that.
mhm,
But
yeah,
we have also grown up in a culture that has the sayings, "It's all in your head.
mm,
It's just a dream.
yeah,
It's only your imagination."
yeah,
And people get worried that they're making it up. And
mm,
I would say that imagination is your greatest power.
mhm,
It's the reason that we can communicate over these devices. We didn't have them 50 years ago.
mhm,
We can live in homes instead of caves. It's
mhm,
because people could imagine something that didn't yet exist on the physical plane and bring it into the physical plane. But
mhm,
we denigrate all that by saying it's all in your head. It's just a dream. It's only your imagination.
mhm,
And I think we need to reclaim that capability.
yeah. Well, this brings up the point of, I've talked about this before, but the concept of imagination is super fascinating to me. But they say that the brain cannot imagine or dream beyond what it knows. So it's so hard to explain. I feel like, to like wrap your brain around it, but you can't actually dream up or imagine something without having some sort of knowledge of it. I think, like, let's go back 100 years ago. They probably could not even dream up the concept of a cell phone. Like, that was so far removed from what their exposure was. And so, but now, I mean, good God, we have the exposure of like everything. So if you've been exposed to it, then you're able to dream it up and imagine it. And so that's where it's important that we take on new experiences, because that's when you're like, oh, I never would have thought of this, because it's just never been in your realm of thoughts. I don't know, I'm probably explain
No,
that.
I get what you're saying, and I'm drawn, of course, because of what I do, back to the disparity between the conscious and the subconscious. So the conscious mind can process an estimated 16 bits of data per second. The subconscious can process 1,000,000 bits of data per second.
Hmm.
So when you walk into a room, you're taking in 1,000,000 bits of data per second, both from the outside and from the inside,
Yeah.
where your conscious mind would get overloaded. It can only do the 16. So
Mm.
you're taking in way more information than you are consciously aware of what you've taken in.
Okay.
This is one of the reasons why hypnotists historically have been known to be hired by police departments, because the witness to a crime actually has information stored somewhere in their memory that they don't have conscious access to. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah. That's
So
it.
if your conscious mind is 5% of your brain's processing power, what's that other 95% doing? And what does it have access to that you consciously don't have access to? Well, it has all the information about your first birthday party,
Mm.
how
Yeah.
it perceived it.
Yeah. Interesting. Gosh, this is fascinating. Do you do this remotely to people? And is it like,
Mm.
are their eyes closed? Are they zonked out? Is it like we see on TV? I mean, I've watched it in person in little settings, but it's, I don't know,
So
fascinating
the
to me.
first thing I like to do when this question comes up, and it's a great question, is to level set what hypnosis is so that
Yeah.
you and everybody who listens to this can understand immediately by referencing something in their lives.
Mm.
Because all of us go in and out of hypnosis all the time without a
Mm.
hypnotist present.
Okay.
Driving your car, you're thinking about something, a relationship. You're thinking about something at work. You're
Mm.
thinking about your medical situation, and you pull into your driveway and you cannot remember driving the last 10, 15, or 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm sure this happens to you constantly, right? Is that like,
I remember my drives, actually. I'm a very focused driver, actually, but, I mean, I
has it
still,
ever
like, have other
has it
thoughts.
ever happened to you where you pulled into your driveway and you couldn't remember driving the last 10, 15, or 20 minutes?
No,
Never?
that's a long time. I don't think so. 20
Okay.
minutes?
Have you ever played a sport or done work in your garden or house and you
I mean,
came
I've
into
certainly
one.
done a lot of things where I don't remember how I got there.
Were you wash your hands and you had a cut on the back of your hands? Or you were in the shower and you had a bruise on your thigh the size of a grapefruit and you didn't know where you got that and you thought, "Oh, I must have got it playing volleyball 2 days ago?"
I mean, I feel like it's more like, how d
Has that ever
I'm
happened?
uh, maybe the bruise situation.
Okay. So the question is, why didn't you feel the pain when you received the
Yeah,
pain?
yeah,
Like, why would it be a mystery to you as to how you got the bruise on your leg?
yeah,
The answer is you were in hypnosis when it happened.
yeah,
Hypnosis is a focused state of concentration. It's like your thinking your awareness goes from looking through a large Palladian glass window to looking through something the diameter of a straw.
okay, yeah.
And
I feel like I
any
might be a hard person to hypnotize. Are some people more difficult than others?
people who people who are A, resistant to it, they don't want it to happen
Okay,
because they're afraid,
okay,
or people who have the idea that hypnosis is a catatonic sleep-like state where they do whatever they're told and they don't remember anything.
okay,
The people who understand what it actually is and are
okay,
willing to participate all go into hypnosis because we all go in and out of it all the time anyway.
okay.
Have you ever watched a movie and the movie ended and you thought, "That's been 2 hours? Really? Felt like it
True,
was 20 minutes."
yeah,
That's happened?
yeah,
That's hypnosis.
yeah. I mean, I never remember a movie anyway. My memory's horrible, but that's a whole whole 'nother thing. I don't know.
That's hypnosis when there's time distortion. And
Yeah,
there's always time distortion when we're doing something that we love. Playing sports, riding a horse, fishing, being on a date and being in love,
yeah,
watching a movie, watching a play that you're completely absorbed in. There's always time distortion, just like sleep. And
mm,
hypnosis is named after the Greek god of sleep, Hypnos, because you have no concept of time when you're sleeping,
mm-mm.
right? People don't have a concept of time when they're in hypnosis. What my point is that it's not like you're drugged.
Yeah,
You might feel that way because you're so relaxed, but
yeah,
there's no outside, there's no physical contact. It's just words.
yeah. Hmm,
And the hypnotist is just guiding you into a state you already have access to, that you already go in and out of all the time. Children are in hypnosis all the time. We say children are like sponges. That's because they're in hypnosis, and hypnosis is known as a state of hyper learning. That's
hmm,
why children learn to do things faster than we adults learn to do things.
hmm. Okay. Interesting. Alright, let's go back to your story, though. I wanna talk about the leukemia and
Yeah.
how did you heal from that? So, if you were to do a blood draw on you today, would it still
Mhm.
show that you have it?
It would show that my white blood cell count is high,
Okay.
but it's less than half of the number that it was when I was diagnosed. And
How
I was
high
told
so how high was it?
it was as high as 57,000.
Oh, wow.
It's supposed to be like 5 to 8,000, I think it is,
Okay,
and mine was as high was 57,000.
okay,
I think it might have been diagnosed at 44, and then it went up over the next month or 2 or 3 to 57.
okay.
and now it's like 23.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So and then I was told I might live for 10 years,
Mm,
and that was 23 years ago.
interesting. Yeah, this brings up the whole other point I sometimes think about with cancer and different things. Like, would we just be better off if we didn't know, if it wasn't labeled? If a doctor didn't say, "Hey, you've got leukemia and 10 years to live." Because if you aren't you, and like you obviously were like, "Okay, I'm gonna figure this out and I'm gonna find a way to survive." And then there's other people like, "Okay, well, clock's ticking. What do I need to check off the bucket list? Because I've only got 10 years left." And they just start like dying inside immediately. I saw it with my grandpa. I've talked about this in an episode before, but he had some shoulder pain and he went in and then it was like, "Oh, actually you have cancer and it's everywhere and you're going to die in a few months." And then it was just like it felt like within the week all of a sudden he was just bound to his chair. It was like, "How did this happen so fast?" Coincidence? Maybe. I don't think so. I mean, no such thing as coincidence as they say. But yeah, so that's a whole nother point. But so
Well,
okay,
right, and that gets into the whole the placebo effect,
for sure.
and the opposite of the placebo effect is the nocebo effect. So the placebo means "I will please," and nocebo is the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But it's essentially a person taking a hypnotic suggestion and having it become their physical reality.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's why sham knee surgery is just as effective as the real thing, where
I
they
read
actually
about
give
that.
people anesthesia, they do an incision, they pretend to do the surgery, and it's just as effective as the real thing because the people believe it's the real thing, and so they behave as if.
Yeah, I've read that, it's crazy. It's wild actually. Like, it blows
Yes.
my mind, but, I mean, it's definitely a thing. So, did you do anything medicinally to change the terrain inside of your body, or was it just all mental for you?
No, as I said to you before, I believe in firing on all cylinders.
Mhm.
So, I changed my diet. I worked with a naturopath who did blood tests no, provoked urine tests to find out that I was poisoned with mercury and lead.
Mm,
I got all the mercury amalgam fillings out of my mouth. I had 13 of those. I
yeah.
told you I worked on Wall Street and was breathing in all of that crap. I was also a firefighter breathing in all of that crap. And
Mhm,
so I did different kinds of procedures like sauna, colonics, different kinds of binders and chelators to get the metal and other poisons out of my body. And as they were coming out, I remember that I would get in the sauna all these welts on
mhm.
like hives, like that could see them emerging on my chest and stomach. And I called the naturopath and said, "What should I do?" And she said, "Keep going." Because your liver is not able to handle all the poison that's coming out of your body. So it's coming out through your skin and it's reacting with the skin. Just keep
Mhm,
going. And so I kept going. And each time I went, I noticed that these things wouldn't be as big, they wouldn't be as angry. They finally looked like a bunch of pinpricks, like a heat rash. And then that went away.
mhm,
And then I put 2 and 2 together and I went, "Well, okay, before I was diagnosed with leukemia, when I would mow the lawn or something in the summer, I would get this itchy feeling across my forehead where the band of my ball cap was. And
mhm.
after I detoxed, I could do that and I wouldn't get itchy anymore."
Oh my gosh, I know, you're right, I need it. The infrared sauna is supposed to be amazing for
Mhm,
firefighters, for their
mhm,
lungs, but
yep,
and I have one, and it does help me tremendously, but it's also a thing where, like, getting hydrated enough to go in is also can be difficult, just as a mom, because 'cause I'm just always on the go, and so I feel like I don't drink enough, but yeah, you're reminding me I need to get my I actually did go in, like, a week or 2 ago, but I need to be way more religious with it because the sweating thing has actually been happening to me. I'm like, why? Like, we're in Texas and it's hot, and I've started to like get kind of sweaty when I go outside, and my back will start to itch. I'm like, why does my skin feel so itchy? And yeah, so I was thinking too. I was like, I've got crap inside of me. I got to get it
exactly.
out.
Yeah, that's what my naturopath, I think, would say. And what she had me doing was, again, she had me doing colonics, which I was doing at home.
Okay.
And I had an infrared sauna, and
Yeah.
so I was doing the sauna and then hot and cold contrasting shower, back in the sauna,
Mm,
back in the hot, cold contrast, and then a colonic. The whole thing took, oh my god, it took a couple of hours, and it was maybe 5 days a week, 2 days off, and I did that, I think, for 2 weeks,
okay.
and then I did 1 other week of that, and it made a big difference.
Okay. Yeah, maybe that's what I need to do, just, like, focus real hard on hitting it hard for a couple
Yeah,
weeks at
sure.
least, and then yeah.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
can also look into binders, like, if you knew what it was, is it pesticides or is it more like heavy metals?
yeah. When I did heavy metal treatment, though, it actually made things worse.
Mhm.
So, for I have ulcerative colitis. Well, now they say it's Crohn's, but that's a whole 'nother long story.
Oh,
But
wow.
anyway, I noticed it got really bad as soon as I started to do the metal chelation, and so I had to just stop because it was making it so bad. So, I think heavy metals are real bad in my body, but I'm not entirely sure how I'm getting them
Mm.
out without causing other things to flare in a bad way. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
There must be people who are skilled in that you can work with
yeah,
that
more
can
gentle.
calibrate it,
Yeah,
because if you go too fast, yeah, you can have really bad reactions to it.
yeah.
If you back it off and go more slowly, your body, your system can handle the detox, and if you work with a person that knows what they're doing, I would imagine they could guide you through that.
Yeah, I got tired of being a patient, and I actually felt like that helped me to get well as well. It was like, I just gotta stop treating for a while because
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
you could just keep going all day long. I mean, as far
Mhm.
as the Lyme and the co-infections and things like that, it's like you could just go forever, I feel like it doesn't ever really fully go away. It's like you can get it down to such a low level, it seems like it's gone, and then it comes back, and so I was like, "I could be here forever with this doctor," just taking the
Mhm.
things. So I'm like, "I'm gonna just focus." And actually, I did get better after that once I stopped because I felt like putting in I was doing antibiotics for it at the time, and I felt like that was putting my body in kill mode, essentially, right? You put this
Mhm. Yeah.
antibiotic in there, and your body's like, "What do I do with this? I gotta go kill something," right? And so I felt like I need to just let my body relax a little bit and not have to fight
Sure.
so hard. And I felt like that helped me a lot. It's not I don't regret doing what I had done prior. I think there's just you gotta find that happy medium for you and when to stop and when to give your body that rest and see if it can start to survive on its own, essentially. It's kinda like taking life support off and see what happens. But so you got the leukemia, and then you did diet changes and different what were the main diet changes you did? I know this also can be very personal to each
Oh,
one.
it's fine. I mean, I remember one of the first things I did was I looked into the water.
Yeah.
Water is obviously intrinsic to life, and so many people's water supplies are contaminated with fluoride and chlorine and other people's birth control and other people's pharmaceuticals, and seriously, like, it's got,
Well,
like,
it's
it's
true.
literally contaminated, and so if there's anybody out there who's struggling with their health, my advice, don't I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I just wanna make
Yeah.
that clear,
Me
is
neither.
look into the purity of your water, and if it's contaminated, then get a good filtration system so that you're not drinking more poison. Because,
Mhm.
I mean, the older I get, the more I work in this area and I think about health, the more I realize we are under tremendous assault.
Yeah.
I mean, there's even stuff being sprayed in the air, and we were told that we were crazy for thinking that, and now Florida, where I live, has become the first state to officially pass a law with felony penalties for anybody spraying in the atmosphere,
Oh, nice. Lucky you.
you know? Yeah,
I'll just go outside and look at my chemtrails.
and the water and the food and the GMOs, and there's all kinds of stuff, and I think we have to be aware to protect ourselves to the extent that we can. And to your point about the mental state, it's important not to look too long into the abyss because the abyss is looking back into you, and that will negatively impact your health. So there's kind of a balancing act between doing the things that you need to do to stay aware, to do some kind of work on yourself, and then be able to live your life.
Mhm.
And so much of the living of our lives, and again, don't take my advice, I'm just telling you my story,
Yeah.
is the powers that be are telling us to stay out of the sun. It's the source of all life.
Yeah. It grows your food, but it's bad for you.
Countless generations of people, right, who lived and worked in the sun. And now we're being told to put toxic sunscreen on ourselves when we go out in the sun and to sit under LED light emitting diodes that we're not calibrated for. That's
Yeah.
not our home.
Yeah.
There's so much that you can be electrically connected to the ground if you are barefoot or if you have leather soled shoes. Rubber
Mhm.
soled shoes, you're not electrically connected to the ground. And that
Yeah.
has massive implications for your health.
Yeah.
So I
It
know I'm kind of veering away from things, but it gives you an idea of like what I was looking at. And it really felt like it was pulling back the covers of everything that I had absorbed in this culture versus how it really is,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, I went through all this too, and it's funny because now I feel like people are talking about it now. I'm like, "I've been doing this for 10 years now." Like, the light bulb had to go on a long time ago for me for to be able to survive, but it's funny you mentioned the water thing because that was something I felt very intuitively that was coming through to me many, many years ago, was just to really, really have a strong focus on the liquids going in my body, just because the body is made up of cells and we are mostly water, right?
Mhm.
And so if we're putting in a bunch of junk, like, that's what we become, and so I really have put a strong focus on the water and drinking teas and things like that, but it's insane, all the stuff you're saying, it's insane. It gets overwhelming, and I feel like you have to just let it go at a point too, like, I can't do anything about the chemtrails. I see people posting about it, and they're so angry about it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "I can't do anything about it." Like, I have to just keep living life, like, they're there. I don't know. It sucks, and I know people are trying to fight it, and hopefully they stop at some point, but there's only so much in my control, and having a negative, angry emotion over it is not gonna help me any. So, like,
No, you're right.
what are the variables that I can control? I can control my water, and that's about it. The food is a struggle, unless I'm gonna start butchering my own cows and growing all my own things. It can be really hard, so we just have to do the best with what we can. It's frustrating, though. It's very frustrating, but
Yeah, and for me, again, from the perspective from which I come at all of this, it comes back to controlling your autonomic nervous system, because again, if you're in that fight or flight response all the time, not only are you gonna be robbing all of your body's major systems that it needs to process, because we have a detoxification capability, just like we have a digestion capability, and we need to make sure that as much as possible, we're in that rest and digest state.
Mhm,
And if we're not, we're gonna be looking for ways of distracting ourselves, because I believe that's where addiction comes from.
mm,
And whether it's addicting eating food that's not good for us because we're trying to get a moment's reprieve from
mm,
stress and anxiety and anger and fear,
mhm,
or we're drinking too much alcohol, eating too much sugar, or we're doing other kinds of drugs. There are people that are smoking pot every single day because that's what they need to get through. But that to me says underneath there's so much wounding underneath that they're
mhm,
carrying around with them,
mhm.
you
Yeah,
know? So my feeling is kind of like what it says in the Bible, as above, so below. Your spirit, your mind, your consciousness, your emotions are running everything.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean that you can just eat Twinkies all day,
no.
but it does mean that we have to get control of that, of the master part of us.
Mhm,
And again, it doesn't have to be hypnosis. It can be meditation. It can be prayer, but something that shifts your state so you're not walking around angry all the time. You're
yeah,
not walking around frightened all the time.
yeah. I've never had a Twinkie, but no, in all seriousness, you're absolutely right. We don't wanna walk around angry, that doesn't help us, and I think eat the Twinkie if you wanna eat the Twinkie, here and there, right? But don't like
Yeah,
it also
sure.
doesn't help us to eat the Twinkie and then, like, feel all this guilt about it, so if you're gonna feel that way when you eat it, just don't eat it, you know? But I've never had a Twinkie, so I don't know what I'm missing, but they
That's
just
right.
sound
There's a quote from Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychologist, and that is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and
yeah,
you will call it fate.
mhm,
And we all have this. We
yeah,
all have stuff that's running automatic processes below the level of conscious awareness.
mhm,
And a lot of people, it turns up with their eating habits,
yeah,
or their drinking habits,
yeah,
or watching TV, or doom scrolling or whatever. And a lot of this is being driven by things that happened in the past that are unconscious,
mm,
and we're trying to escape it.
yeah,
And so that's why he said, we must make those things conscious so they don't rule our lives anymore. So
yeah,
we don't just say, well, that's just the way it is. That's just how I am.
yeah. What what was, like, the big aha? Do you have a certain moment that you usually share or talk about where it was, like, this just huge epiphany? Obviously, you get leukemia and, 10 years to live. It's like, "Oh, shoot," but was there some sort of thought that was just, I don't know, monumental that you share?
I can start with a little broader answer and then narrow it down.
Okay.
So, I went to Santa Fe, New Mexico to study hypnotherapy, and some things happened while I was there where it transformed me. I came back a different person. When I left, leukemia was the prism through which everything flowed. I
Mhm,
thought about it every day, multiple times during the day. I worried about how long I was gonna live.
mm.
And
Yeah,
when I came back, it was now a chapter. It wasn't the book of my life, it was one chapter, and I didn't feel the fear about it anymore. I felt like I could live my life.
mm,
When I went there, I had an anger problem. I didn't know it, but I knew it when I came back and it was gone,
mm.
and it hasn't returned in the way that it was before I left. And
Yeah.
that's why I became so focused upon what I would say is healing the past,
Mhm.
because that's who you are. You are the past.
Yeah.
And if you want your present and your future to be different, you literally have to change the past. What I mean by that is your perception of it, your
Yeah.
relationship to it.
Mhm.
And it's going to be ultimately an emotional change that
Mhm.
occurs.
Yeah.
And
It
when
is.
that happens, you feel free.
Mhm.
And so that's what happened to me. And because the body and the mind are connected, I felt healthier when I came back, not just physically healthier, but I felt healthier in my relationship to my wife and my kids and humanity.
Yeah.
I felt more I felt more in control or more empowered. I felt calmer.
Yeah.
When before I was diagnosed, I was walking around with a back, it was out. I couldn't even walk our property in Connecticut to see the whole thing. It was like 3 acres because my back was so bad.
Yeah.
Where was that coming from? Anxiety, stress, fear. It was where I was all knotted up in my consciousness.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the biggest change was
Mhm.
over the course of 2.5 or 3 months in Santa Fe, New Mexico, going through this because it wasn't just feeding information into my head, it was experiential.
Yeah.
It was being in hypnotic trances. It was healing stuff from my own past.
Mhm.
It was sitting in a chair in hypnosis and sobbing like a baby as I was clearing out stuff from my past.
Yeah.
So that for me is the quintessence of the moment, even though the moment, if you will, unfolded over 2.5 to 3 months.
I can relate to that because I've gone through my own stuff, rewire stuff, and then it starts to seep back certain emotions, and it's like, "Okay, what do I have to dive back into?" And it's you gotta find the time for yourself, which I need to do right now. I do. I really do need to find the time to sit with myself and figure out what are some of the things that are stuck that I need to work through. But it was so funny when I went through this one big, like, rewire reset, if you will. I remember with my kids, it was just like, like nothing bothered me. Everything was just like, and even like situations I got into with people, I was just like, okay, okay. Like everything was just like, like did not give a shit. I mean, you would have thought I was smoking marijuana. I mean, it was just like, okay, okay. Everything was fine. And then one of the crazier ones I remember, I hit my elbow, like my funny bone, on
Mhm.
something really hard. I had like no reaction to it. And he used to be like, "Ah," like, "Ugh," like, the worst feeling ever when you hit that funny bone, which is weird because it does feel weird in that spot, but I was like, "Whoa," like, whatever that was that I worked through, this was a different time, but it was like, whatever I worked through, obviously,
Yeah.
like, let go of some sort of sensory thing that I was holding on to with my body.
Yeah, I know that well, both from my own experience and from my clients, and
Yeah,
I personally, I feel like that's the biggest thing. And again, I still believe in firing on all cylinders. I would
yeah,
never say to somebody, you should not detox from the poison that's in your body, or that you shouldn't change your diet and make it cleaner and healthier, that you shouldn't get exposure to the light that's regulating your, pituitary gland and your endocrine system. I would definitely say all of that is important.
mhm,
But, even when I was in Santa Fe, I learned about Bruce Lipton, and I'm sure you've probably come across him. He's a scientist, and he's the one that came up with the term epigenetics.
yeah,
Epi is Greek for above genetics. You personally, along with everybody listening, can change your genetic expression
It's true. Yeah.
based upon your emotional state.
Mhm.
So the things that used to get you jacked up before that had you walking around in this tense fight or flight state is also activating or upregulating the genes you don't want to upregulate, the
Yeah.
ones for disease, and it's
Mhm.
downregulating the ones for health.
Mhm.
Well, shifting that means you're doing the opposite. You're upregulating all the healthy ones and downregulating the ones that are not healthy, which is essentially like a light switch. You could have the gene for, say, breast cancer or something, and a doctor might say, well, they need to, surgically amputate the woman's breasts, even though she doesn't have cancer because she has the gene for it. Well, as a non doctor, I think about that and go, wait a minute. If that light switch is always in the off position, do we really need to worry about this?
It won't get expressed. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Epigenetics. For anybody that's interested, I
Yeah.
implore you, look it up.
Mhm.
It's real. We're not practicing medicine that way, but it's real.
Yeah.
Science is 20, 30, 40 years ahead.
Mhm.
My training was 20 years ago. I learned about that. Read the book Biology of Belief by
Mhm.
Bruce Lipton 20 years ago. And that research is probably 10 years older than his book. But we're still not practicing taking that into account.
Yeah, well, I mean, pharma and money, that's just like
Yes. That's right, and this is where it's important for us to take the steering wheel back
yeah,
of our own lives
yeah,
and become the
mhm,
whatever metaphor you wanna use, the admiral, the general, the driver, whatever, and let the other people, whether it's you or it's me or it's a doctor or a psychologist, let them be on your team of advisors.
mhm.
Inform yourself where you are making the decision about you and perhaps about your children.
Yeah. And let me say, I am not against pharma, but I also know that they push the pharmaceuticals without pushing a solution. That is their solution instead of uncovering why are you dealing with whatever you're dealing with in the first place. It's like just take this drug. And that's the problem I have with pharmaceuticals. And some of those things they put them on you and then they cause other problems, and it's just this cascade of things. So there's a time and a place for them for sure. But Peter, this has been, I think, very valuable for listeners as far as the show goes. Wake up your soul and just coming to this awakening of how do we get to a different place in our lives? Because I think ultimately we want to understand, like, why are we here? I'm not here just to go to my job or just to, clean house every day. What am I doing here? And we're here to enjoy our lives and get to know each other and help one another. And how do we do that? And we have to be in the right frame of mind. And so it sounds like the hypnosis you offer can really help people make a shift in their lives to get into that other realm.
Sure, and I would add one other thing to your list of why we're here, and that is to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
Most
Oh,
religions and most philosophies, philosophical schools of thought, think of this as the earth school.
mhm,
And I mentioned before, I think I needed to get hit in the head with the spiritual two by four to get back on a path I had gotten off of,
mhm,
to kind of learn the things that I came here to learn, to have the experiences I came here to experience, and not do what I was doing when I was diagnosed with leukemia.
mhm,
And when we can see, for example, the idea that the universe or God is always operating for us, even with the bad things,
mhm.
because the bad things are the things we call bad, we actually learn more from that. That
Of course.
presents a greater opportunity for change than the good things. Why should we change anything if everything's going great?
Right.
That's not how we roll as human beings. We generally only change when the pain gets sufficient to get our attention, just like it did with me. And if
Yeah.
there's one crystalline piece of advice that I could give, it would be that, which
Mhm,
is when bad things happen, ask yourself the question, what is this trying to teach me?
mhm,
Because it'll instantly shift your relationship to that thing. It'll
mhm.
help you move into that rest and digest rather than in the fight or
Yeah,
flight. It'll
yeah,
expand your mind to embrace what's happening rather than be angry like I was at what
yeah.
was happening.
Yeah, that's usually where I go to with my mindset is like, "Why is this happening?" And not in a negative way, like, "Why me? Oh, this is horrible." It's like, "Okay, why?
Mhm.
What do I need to learn here? How is this is
Exactly.
gonna benefit me, I know it. So,
Exactly.
like, why is this happening? What is the benefit that's coming from this later?"
Right.
It's like I've been on this crazy journey, so I have now, I guess, Crohn's, I don't know, whatever, but had a colonoscopy and I had a precancerous polyp, and it was the second one in 11 months, and I'm like, "This is not good." Why is this happening?
Yes.
And I'm thinking, okay, this like part of this has to be that it's about me needing to obviously I think I need to dive into some emotions, but also I need to change my diet even more. And I also like my husband and I have talked about it. I think maybe this was just the disease has also been something that has saved my life possibly in the sense of if I didn't have that, you wouldn't find me going in for a colonoscopy, right? And so those precancerous polyps, and maybe they are only there because of the disease, that's also possible too. I get that. But it's also possible that this was God's way of saving me and helping me to find these polyps was like, I have to give her this disease so that she gets in there and gets a colonoscopy and gets this polyp removed before it turns into colon cancer and kills her at 40 years old because she's not gonna go do it otherwise, right? And so there's just and I don't know, is that right? Who knows, But that's just the way my brain has had to look at it, so I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Do you have any little nuggets that you like to leave people with? Like, if you're wanting change in your life, what are the next steps?
The first one would be what we were just talking about, and I think it does bear repeating that everything happens for a reason. And even though you don't know what the reason is, sometimes it takes time, the passage of time.
Mhm,
Hold on to that. It's happening for a reason. It's trying to teach you something. And once you learn the lesson, you don't need to have the same experience again.
mhm,
The next thing is you're not broken.
mhm.
We think that we are like marble or something, like we've been chiseled in marble.
Yeah.
You are capable of change.
Mhm.
It's hard,
Yeah.
but you are capable of change. And
Yeah.
it feels amazing when you're able to do that.
Mhm. Tomorrow is such a blank slate, and that's the thing people need to wrap their minds around when they think that they cannot change. Tomorrow has not been written. It really hasn't. So make the choice tomorrow. And I get it that change is hard, right? So don't go at it and try to do just this full 180 and be completely different. But what are those tiny micro things that we can start
Mhm.
adding into our lives to make the change that we want to accomplish? So you got to have a plan, have that goal and that plan.
Yeah, and then the last thing I would say is in 20 years of working with people, every single healing journey has ended in the same place, which is forgiveness.
Mm,
Every single one, because that's how we get hurt. That's
mhm,
how we hurt others, is in
yeah,
relationship.
mhm,
And when you are in a state of non-forgiveness to someone, it's like you are handcuffed to them through pain. And the
yeah,
way you know that is when you think of that person and you get angry or you get sad or you feel grief or you
mm,
feel resentment or bitterness, you know that you are handcuffed to them.
mm,
And the keys that free you from those handcuffs are forgiveness.
yeah.
And
I think
forgiveness isn't just forgiving other people for what they've done to you, it's being forgiven for what you've done because none of us is perfect.
mhm,
And the big one is forgiving yourself. A
mhm,
lot of people are good at forgiving others, but they cannot forgive themselves.
mhm,
And these are all of vital importance, especially for healing, because if you're carrying around bitterness, anger, frustration, fear, grief, that's degrading your physical health.
yeah,
Yeah.
mhm,
So I would say, please keep in mind that. And a phrase came to me the other day when I was mowing the lawn, which is, you are worthy of forgiving someone.
mhm,
You deserve to be able to forgive someone
yeah,
because it's a gift to you.
yeah,
It's not saying that what they did was correct. No, it's
yeah,
not that. It's releasing them and freeing yourself from the bonds
mhm,
of anger, bitterness, frustration, hatred, fear.
yeah. You don't have to believe that what they did was right to
No,
forgive them, right? You don't have to change that and be like, "Fine, okay, I
no,
accept it." No, but you
no.
have to forgive them, and you don't have to love them, but you don't wanna hate them because that's a whole 'nother emotion that you're gonna hang on to, right? So we don't wanna hate them,
Mhm.
but they don't have to be your best friend. Just let it go. Just let them be a human being on their own experience and their own journey, and that's that. And but
Yeah.
yeah, just forgive them and let go. But also sometimes it helps just to see maybe where was that person coming from and like really imagine like their own anger that they hold within their body for them to have acted the way they did towards you that you're so resentful towards, right? And then we can kind of have that a little bit of sympathy towards how they were.
One of my favorite stories from the Bible is when Jesus comes upon the men that are about to stone a prostitute to death.
Mhm.
They're all holding the rocks. And he says to them, "Let those among you without sin cast the first stone."
Mhm.
And they all drop their rocks. And I take that to mean we are all that prostitute, all of us. We all have our thing.
Yeah.
It may not be that we've sold our body for money, but we've got something.
Yeah.
And so what it says to me is, on some level, who are we
Yeah.
to not forgive other people,
Mhm.
given the fact that we're not perfect either?
Yeah.
And it's not a ratification of what they did as being right or wrong. It doesn't mean, as you said, that you have to be best buddies. You don't even have to speak to them in person. You don't have to send them a text. You
Yeah.
can do it inside your own consciousness
Mhm.
and essentially release them and what they did.
Yeah.
And if you take on that philosophy I was talking about before, that everything is happening for your highest and best interests, even the
Mhm.
bad stuff, there
Mhm.
may be part of you that's able to thank them, say, "Thank you
Yeah.
for stealing that money from me
Yeah.
because it helped me to learn the art of forgiveness, or it helped me to learn how to let go of things.
Yeah.
It got you out of my life, and I thank you for that.
Mhm.
I don't have to hate you.
Yeah.
I don't have to hold on to this bitterness."
Yeah. And like you said, everybody has moments and everybody has things that they have done wrong in their lives. And those people that you're holding anger towards,
Mhm.
they're going to realize at some point in their lives that they have done wrong and made choices. And maybe they're just not there yet, and that's okay, that's their journey, but sometimes I think people, in order to forgive somebody, they need that apology. They want an apology or they want to know that that person understands that what they did was wrong, and it's like, you shouldn't need to have that for yourself to get the forgiveness, right? To forgive them and forgive yourself, just let them figure out their journey.
Yes, because your well-being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, is
Mhm.
dependent on you not dragging them through the rest of your life,
Yeah,
connected through pain.
yeah. And, like, how shitty is that for you, though, to hang on to like, that person did something bad to you, and they've moved on with their life. They're not even thinking about you anymore, and they're maybe even enjoying life, having a grand old time, and here you are letting somebody else's actions bring you down. Let it go. Anyway.
Yep, well said, well said.
Well, thank you for being here. Where can people find you, Peter?
2 places. My YouTube channel has about 300 pieces of content, and a lot of it, most of it, is designed to, like, self-directed, if you will, or
Okay,
guided
fun, fun.
for all kinds of topics. And then that's called Blue Sky Hypnosis, and then my website is also the same name, blueskyhypnosis.com, if they wanna connect with me in some way.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.